Hi, I'm Cantor, and I'm back. It's been a while since I made a video about movies. What has changed since I was last filming? My brother, sent me this rare Mew card, so that's a thing. I've been listening to the acoustic version of Ali X's song Paper Love a lot, and also I'm on ADHD meds now. That's about it. So, okay, let's get started then. So anyone who knows me knows that I have a real chip on my shoulder about marriage.
George Costanza
Yeah?
is getting married!
I was once briefly married, and by briefly I mean like literally 6 months, because 6 months was the point at which I realized that my ex-husband was not taking the commitment thing as seriously as I was. So I asked him for a divorce and took off to Oahu for a week by myself to contemplate my life, and a friend of mine actually said to me, Cantor, you're a protagonist in a Haruki Murakami novel now. Now, I don't like to pretend that my experience with marriage is the same as people who were married for 5 or 10 years or longer, but I went into it fully intending to stick to my vows, and also with a lot of really romantic notions about what marriage even is. And now I am much more aware of how the institution of marriage, which is great for some people, can be manipulated and warped and used as a tool for harm. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, specifically in the context of 2 very good movies, Big Eyes and The Wife. This video contains plenty of spoilers for both films. Big Eyes is one of what I call the non-eccentric Tim Burton movies. Burton got his start making weirdo movies for weirdos, such as Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice and The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
Well, I'm back. I feel real good about myself, you know what I mean?
Now, Burton didn't actually write or direct The Nightmare Before Christmas, but he was a producer, and the character designs and the set designs and the whole vibe of that movie are very him, so I think it's fair to call it a Tim Burton movie anyway. Early Burton is eccentric Burton, and while I'm a bit sad to see that as his career has progressed and he's become a more established director, he's lost some of his weirdness, non-eccentric Burton gave us this great movie, which stars Amy Adams as Margaret, a divorcee in the 1950s who likes to make paintings of children with really big eyes, and Christoph Waltz as Walter, who becomes Margaret's second husband and soon starts passing off her paintings as his own. I adore Christoph Waltz, by the way. Quentin Tarantino was convinced that his movie Inglourious Basterds would not be able to be made if he couldn't find the right actor who could speak English, German, French, and also had the right acting skills and the right personality to play Nazi Colonel Hans Landa.
I might add also that any information that makes a performance of my duty easier will not be met with punishment. Actually, quite the contrary. It will be met with reward.
And here comes Waltz, this Austrian television actor who does speak all 3 of those languages and also is exceptionally good at being both charming and evil at the same time. But also just look at this photo of young Waltz. That is a boy I would have dated in college. What a cutie.
Ich bin das neue Jahr, bin jünger als das alte war. Wie viel? Das ist jetzt die Frage.
The film begins with Margaret leaving her first husband, who we never see on screen. And very early in the film, we get this specific motif of Margaret in the foreground and her daughter Jane in the background, which is a mise-en-scène that comes up repeatedly in the film.
You see anything you like?
I like those over there.
In the early scenes, this imagery of Jane's being behind her mother emphasizes how important Jane is to her mother. Because it's not like she's in the background because she doesn't matter. It's like it's kind of representing how, it's showing, to me, I think it's showing how Jane is in her mother's mind. She's always there, present in the background. Margaret is leaving her first husband to create a better life for herself and her daughter in an era of history where being a single mother was not very common and hence a very risky thing to be, even more so than it is now. For instance, we see Jane sitting behind Margaret in her car before Margaret goes in for a job interview, during which the interviewer, a man, asks her,
So your husband approves of you working?
Margaret is shown to be quite meek. She's quiet, reserved, and often, fiddling with her hands. She is naive, but that means she genuinely believes the best in people, which makes her the perfect target for Walter, who approaches her while they're both selling paintings in the park.
And in the basement, they have espresso.
Espresso, what's that? Is that like reefer?
And boy, oh boy, is he charismatic. He talks about learning how to paint in Paris. And then when Margaret's ex-husband tries to take Jane from her by claiming that Margaret can't possibly provide for her daughter because she's a single mother, Walter does not hesitate to offer to marry Margaret so that they can, have a family and she can keep her daughter.
Well, marry me.
And so they get married, and Margaret takes Walter's last name, which is Keene, and starts signing her paintings as Keene, which is how he signs his paintings also. Now, in the other movie I want to look at, The Wife, our main characters have been married for decades. Glenn Close is Joan, who is the wife of Joe, played by Jonathan Pryce, who is a writer currently in the running for the Nobel Prize. Pryce you might recognize from Pirates of the Caribbean because he was Keira Knightley's character's father. And now, let me say this right off the bat. It is definitely intentional that these two main characters' names are phonetically similar. Joe's name is literally 2/3 of the sounds of Joan's name. As the movie goes on, we will see why the similarity in the names matters. But when the movie starts, it's the night before Joe will learn if he won the Nobel Prize, and he's very nervous.
If this thing doesn't happen, I don't want to be around for the sympathy calls, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to get out of here. We're going to rent a cabin in Maine.
Joan keeps giving him advice and reminding him how to take care of his health. And then Joe asks Joan for sex, and when she isn't interested, he says,
"Come on, you don't have to do anything, just lie there."
So we're already getting a bit of a picture of what this marriage is. They're established, comfortable, perhaps a bit bored. Joan appears to be doing a lot of caretaking, and Joe's comment about just lie there speaks a little bit to the lack of enthusiasm in the sexual connection. It's very different from Margaret and Walter, whose relationship is brand new and hence very exciting. But still, there's something treacherous lurking under the surface of both of these marriages. Sorry, someone is texting me about movies. My friend wants to watch Thelma. I want to watch Thelma too. I think I'm going to tell them I want to watch Thelma. Yes. I would be down to watch Thelma. Also, we could watch Thelma and Louise if you've never seen it. That one is also good. Hey, Callie. Okay, done texting. Big Eyes is notable to me for being a very gendered Tim Burton movie. Throughout the film, there's an emphasis on Margaret's experience as a woman in the 50s and 60s against the cultural attitudes of that time.
Sadly, people don't buy lady art.
Well, what about George O'Keeffe?
The only other Burton movie that I know of that touches on gender in any way like this is actually The Nightmare Before Christmas. Hey Haruki, you want to be on YouTube? He wants to be in my lap. He was a spy? He was Spot. Yeah, so this is Haruki, and his name is Haruki, after the writer Haruki Murakami. And when I adopted him, his name was Spot. And I was like, I can't have a dog named Spot. I just can't. So I changed his name to Haruki. But also now he's covered in spots. So I feel like maybe I did him a disservice by rejecting his birth name. He can't tell me, so who knows? Yeah, I think he forgot. I think he's forgotten that he was ever Spot, so it's probably fine. And I say that about The Nightmare Before Christmas being a gendered film specifically because of the plight of Sally.
Jack, I know how you feel.
Her name's Sally, right? I think so. I guess I could Google it. That entire movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas, is about identity. And Sally's part of that specifically is her role as the captive woman of Dr. Finkelstein, who created her and completely dominates her life, right? But Sally refuses to be imprisoned and repeatedly sneaks off, sometimes even drugging the professor to do so. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye, Haruki. It's nice knowing you. And her being a woman is definitely a factor in her tale. It's never said explicitly in the film, but you can put two and two together and see that the doctor was trying to create like an obedient female companion when he made Sally. Just as Walter expects Margaret to be obedient as the film unfolds. At one point in Big Eyes, Walter insists that Margaret lie to her daughter Jane because he claims to have painted a painting that's Margaret's. And Jane goes, I remember my mom painting that painting. And Walter makes it clear that Margaret needs to tell Jane, no, Walter did that painting. He imitated my style, but he did do that painting. And Jane kind of goes, no, you totally did the painting. But Margaret continues to lie to her. And I guess essentially gaslight her about the painting, right? Margaret is deeply conflicted about this, and despite not being a Catholic, she goes to confession and talks to a priest about it, and the priest says,
The man is the head of the household. Perhaps you should trust his judgment.
That she got this input from a Catholic priest is important, because the inclusion of the church in this story, which is definitely a hugely influential religious and cultural power, the inclusion of the church in this scene emphasizes just how powerful the patriarchal systems and institutions Margaret is struggling against really are, like how powerful those systems are, right? Especially in this era where the film takes place, in the 50s and the 60s in the United States. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Okay, let's get back to how Walter starts taking credit for Margaret's paintings. Oh my gosh, my friend knows nothing about Thelma and Louise. I'm gonna make my friend watch Thelma and Louise, maybe. Or watch Thelma, which is a different movie. Okay, we'll worry about that later. Walter is a salesman at heart, undeniably. He shows up at an art gallery where the owner of the gallery is obviously very annoyed by him, does not want him there, but Walter just keeps talking and talking and trying to sell.
You're gonna love my stuff today.
Haven't I seen that one before?
He does appear to want renown as an artist, but not for the art, but for the fame and the money. There's a scene where Margaret and Walter talk about the art industry, and Walter complains about how more wealthy, more powerful people in the art world are blocking him from the fame he deserves and the recognition he deserves. And Margaret's response to that is,
I think people buy art because it touches them.
Which speaks to her authentic desire for her work to connect with people in a meaningful way. Like, that's her motivation. She really wants to be an artist. And Walter's response to that is,
yeah, you're living in fairyland. People don't get to discover anything. They buy art because it's in the right place at the right time.
Speaking of the right place at the right time, Walter eventually pays the owner of a jazz club to let him put him and Margaret's paintings on the walls to sell them. And when people start paying attention to Margaret's paintings and not his, Walter sees an opportunity and starts claiming that the Big-Eyed Kid paintings are his. The paintings are signed as Keen, after all, and his name is Keen. There's even a later scene where he says,
Come on, the painting says Keen. I'm Keen. You're Keen. From now on, we're one and the same.
In The Wife, when Joe does in fact win the Nobel Prize, at a pre-award ceremony party he's at, he says,
Without this woman, I am nothing.
When he says this, it feels like a statement of love, right? It acknowledges all the invisible work and support that Joan contributes to Joe's life that enables him to write his amazing books, right? The truth, though, is that Joan has written every single one of Joe's published books. There are flashbacks that show their early relationship, back when Joe was married to another woman and Joan was a student in his creative writing class at a university. Joe ends up leaving his wife for Joan, and when he tries to publish a book and fails, Joan says,
I could fix it. Do you want me to fix it?
And so she rewrites it, and it gets published under Joe's name. Earlier, Joan had met a woman, a writer, who told her,
Don't ever think that you can get their attention.
Whose?
The men who write the reviews, who run the publishing houses, who edit the magazines.
And so Joan truly comes to believe that she will never be able to find publishing success as a woman on her own. And so when this opportunity arises for Joan to publish her work under Joe's name, for the books to sell, for them to be able to make money to support their lives that way, and for her work to get out there, she takes the opportunity. When Joe's book, written by Joan, gets published, he invites her to jump on the bed with him, and he starts singing,
We're getting published.
Contrast this to the present, where when Joe gets notified that he won the Nobel, he yet again invites Joan to jump on the bed with him, but this time he sings,
I won the Nobel, I won the Nobel, la 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 la.
It's as if with time, Joan has ceased to be her own person and has been subsumed into Joe, at least as far as his perspective is concerned. You see what I'm saying now about their names, Joe and Joan? And this is where these movies start to become horrific, whether it's the scene where Joan watches Joe accept the Nobel Prize and be praised for his writing that's actually her writing. Or it's Margaret being asked at an art show of her work under Walter's name, and someone asks her if she also paints, and she says,
I don't know.
Or it's just this disturbing moment.
Oh, I will talk as loud as I want.
No, you won't. Well, have you whacked?
What?
For this is one of the things about marriage, right? Is that in a way, to get married is for two people to become, in many legal contexts, one entity. Take me, for instance. When I bought my house, my divorce was still in process. And so my ex-husband had to sign a document saying that I could buy the house as just my property and not marital property, because if he didn't sign a document saying that, the house would also be his no matter what. That's how property law works where I am. Now, laws like these vary by jurisdiction. Here in the United States, they vary by state. But marriage, in many contexts, regardless of where you live, involves two people being a single entity. But Joe and Walter are abusers of that concept. They are both taking a legal state that can be beneficial for a committed couple, such as for inheritance or tax purposes, and extending it beyond its legal scope and into the artistic souls of Joan and Margaret. It is an inherently cruel, controlling, and violent thing that these men are doing to their wives. There is a key difference, though, between Joe and Walter. To Walter, Margaret almost doesn't even really matter. Their dynamic isn't about her. Walter is chasing money, and through Margaret, he sees an opportunity to attain wealth.
They adore you. Because of that article, the joint was packed. And then the famous journalist showed up and I need more paintings!
It's abusive, but it's not actually personal. Margaret just happened to be the tool standing nearby that Walter could use to attain the acclaim and wealth that he craves.
You're so full of shit, Walter!
Get out of my house! Get out of my big house!
Joe, meanwhile, Joe is more complicated. I believe that Joe really thinks that he loves his wife. At the end of the movie, he has a heart attack and dies. And as he is having his heart attack, he asks Joan if she loves him.
Yes, I love you, Joe. I love you very much.
You're such a good liar.
This moment indicates to me that at least on some level, Joe does have some remorse. That he aspired to love Joan and failed terribly and kind of knows it. It's a different dynamic than what Walter and Margaret have, where Walter is a compulsive liar and a manipulator. We eventually learn that Walter has a daughter that he never told Margaret about before they got married, and also that all of his unsuccessful paintings of the streets of Paris that he's so attached to weren't even painted by him, they were painted by somebody else. He's a con man. I do not believe that Joe is truly a con man. He's more just like, kind of pathetic. A sad, pathetic man who wanted praise and acclaim and love, and because of that, loved Joan badly and abused her. But, ultimately, does this distinction matter? Because, of course, we don't want to veer toward absolving Joe of everything he did just because he tried to love Joan and wanted to love Joan. Both men are abusers. Both men are cruel. Both men stole precious things from their wives. My answer, however, to the question of how forgivable these men are, how much their motivations matter, what consequences they should face for what they've done, my answer is that I don't have an answer. It's not up to me to decide. It's not up to any of us viewers to decide. It's up to Joan. And it's up to Margaret. As the ones harmed, only they have the right to decide how best to react to what's happened to them and what their husbands have done to them. And only they can chart their paths towards healing and empowerment. And react and heal, they do. In Big Eyes, Margaret goes on a radio show and proclaims to the world that she is the true artist of the big-eyed kid paintings. Yet again with her daughter standing behind her, as she did earlier in the film also.
I am the only painter in the family.
And when Walter sues her over this proclamation, the judge demands that they both do a painting in court to prove who the real artist is. When Margaret makes a Big Eyes painting and Walter does nothing, Margaret wins her case and wins back her identity as an artist and her dignity. And in The Wife, after Joe dies, Joan says to the reporter who has been following her around Stockholm and implying that he knows that Joan wrote all the books, what she says to him is,
If you malign Joe's talent in any way, I'll take you to court.
And she says to her son also,
When we get home, I'm going to sit you and your sister down. And I'm going to tell you everything.
And then she opens her notebook to a blank page and looks hopeful. Maybe she will never take her proper credit for the books she wrote under Joe's name, but her future is hers now, and that's what matters. And react and heal is what I did also in response to the problems in my own previous marriage. And guess what? I'm actually engaged and getting married again, even though I swore I never would. Life is weird after all.
We're engaged.
No, you're not.
Yes, we are.
I'm 48. Put your hand down.
Anyway, I'm Cantor. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day.